This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werhner, licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. Moments of Clarity's mission is to educate and end the stigma on mental health through the inspirational stories of our exceptional guests. You can join in the show by calling Tiffany toll-free at 866-826-1340 or on Facebook and Twitter at MOC with Tiffany. Now, here's Tiffany Werhner.
Hi, thanks for listening. This is Moments of Clarity. My name's Tiffany Werhner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And happy Halloween, everyone. Happy Halloween, Ed. Thank you so much for all you do.
Where's my button there? Happy Halloween. I had something here for you.
Woo.
Fitting.
It's fitting.
What movie is it from?
Halloween.
Ah. You took a shot in the dark.
It's the Michael Myers one, right? Yeah, took me a second. Thank you for that. All right, so fun. We're going to have a great show. And it was funny. I was watching Netflix, and I was watching my friend James Swift. He's on The Haunted, season 2, episode 3. And I'm like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, there's my guest for Halloween. So she's on this as well. And she's a TV host for her own TV show, Pieces of Victory. And she's a published author. Her book will be coming out soon. And she's a survivor of an abusive lockdown reform school that existed in Ramona, California. And the darkness that she endured evolved her into becoming an activist against child abuse, and is currently interviewing survivors of teen programs on her TV show, Pieces of Victory. And these teen programs include conversion therapy, boot camps for kids, rehabilitation programs, tough love programs, reform schools, and you get the idea. She's an entrepreneur with a background of market research assistant at Pepperdine University and a School of Business. And she's also a supervisor for the undergraduate business division and so much more. And what she's doing is really raising awareness for child abuse, sexual abuse, and things that people don't really understand that are so abusive to our kids today. And I want to welcome to Moments of Clarity, Jeneen Miller.
Hi, Tiffany. How are you doing?
Hi, Jeneen. Good.
Can you hear me?
It's a little soft. If you can make the volume louder, that'd be better.
Sure. Okay. Can you hear me right now?
Better. Is that better, Ed?
Okay. Yeah.
So
Is that
welcome.
better?
It's better.
Hi. Okay.
So,
well, thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Happy Halloween. And
Happy Halloween.
And it's exciting to do a show like this, even though it's really probably a trigger warning for some people too. And we're going to be talking about abusive situations. So just so you know. And so Jeneen, tell us a little bit about your background and your history and why you're so passionate about what you're doing today.
Well, I'm so passionate about what I'm doing today is the mere fact that the school that I was locked into is not an isolated incident. This is happening across our nation. They're still abusing children across our nation, and it doesn't seem like anything is being done about it. Schools are open today, such as the Hepzibah House, which is a sister program of the one I was locked in, and the one that was the one Swift was locked in, and it has been open for over 5 decades, and they're abusing girls today as we speak, and that is just one example of what's going on in this country. So, that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it is happening today, and I know what goes on behind closed doors.
So what goes on behind closed doors? When was what?
Sure.
You want to share a little bit about what you went through?
Yes, I was an honor roll student. I didn't do drugs. I didn't even drink or smoke. And my parents locked me up in a reform school located in Ramona, California. And this was in 1988. And once you're locked into this place, you can't get out. There was a 12-foot fence with barbed wire, and a preacher from hell greeted me into this place. And they...
Preacher from hell
there.
Greeted you into that place?
Exactly. I'm not going to mention names, so we'll just call him the preacher from hell. once I was in there, I was deloused. They did that to every girl. They took all of our belongings. We weren't allowed to, our human rights were taken from us. I couldn't make phone calls, I couldn't write any letters. I couldn't have any visitors from the outside world. The only visitors I could have were my parents, and that was after 3 months.
Why did they send you there if you were getting straight A's?
From the world. Something happened with a family member. I was sexually abused, and when I confronted them, they didn't believe me. And it was a toss-up between I don't believe you or you're wild.
They thought you were attention-seeking or something?
Exactly, attention-seeking, and also, if it wasn't that way, my mother just thought I was wild, and, she didn't have any qualms about telling me that. And so I was angry, and they thought I was on drugs, and they could have given me a drug test, but they never did, and they tricked me into going to this place. They said I was going to a psychiatrist, and it was a long drive, but then once I was in the gate, it was too late. I was locked in, but no way out.
So how long were you there for?
I was locked in there for 8 months. And it was worse than minimum and maximum security prison. I also did a comparison on juvenile hall. And I don't want to say, I really don't have an experience in juvenile hall, so I can't really say for sure what really goes on.
I do.
Behind closed doors.
I've worked there.
Hall.
I worked for the Department of Juvenile Justice and Maximum Risk. It's nothing like what you're saying.
You okay, I was going to say you can give us some insight, but I did call up Juvie Hall in L.A., and it sounded like a picnic compared to Victory Christian Academy.
It is, I think. I would never work for some place unethical.
You can write.
You have a therapist.
When I mentioned, was there forced labor? Is there any forced labor? She nearly threw a fit and bit my head off. I said, "You'll have to excuse me. I'm writing a book called Pieces of Victory," and we were forced labor and hardly had an education. And she got really upset. She said, "No, they're in school. There's no work." And I thought,
if they do work,
I should have been in Juvie Hall. I should have been in Juvie Hall.
But you have to commit a crime to go there, or many.
Yes, you do have to. Yes, thank you. You do have to commit a crime to be accepted into juvenile hall. So I didn't commit a crime. I had no record on me. I worked too. I worked and I studied and I went to school. And apparently, you can be accepted into a lockdown reform school, according to what your parents say.
Mm-hmm.
Not about tangible, evidence stating otherwise. In other words, there was no criminal record. I didn't have any problems with authority. I had good grades. They didn't check that. They just gladly accepted me in with open arms. It's $1 billion industry, and they want to make their money. And that's another thing. They're $1 billion industries, and most of these places are, excluded from the government.
They're run by churches, right? The ones that you're talking about?
Right.
So that's not the state funded.
Exactly. So there's no oversight, there's no regulation, and, I'm not trying to pick on religion by any means. This could happen in a licensed, unlicensed, religious, non-religious program. However, the one I was locked in happened to be religious or taking the flag of Christianity. But nothing that went on behind doors was Christian. And yes, they would force feed girls. If they threw up, they would make them eat their own vomit. It is a sister program of the one that James Swift was locked in. He was locked into New Bethany, homes for boys and girls, and the boys were separated. He was what he described was locked into a dungeon.
Yeah, in cages.
They tortured the hell out of him in cages. Yes, it was awful. And this preacher was, running tax-free, collecting boys and girls and torturing the hell out of them. And also promoting sex trafficking too. So he was making money off of that as well. And it's disgusting how he could get away with raping boys and girls, sodomizing, and he wasn't even indicted. Yeah, it's really disgusting how he got away with it. And then girls and boys that would run away from this place, the authorities would just bring them back to the school.
It's amazing. After I watched The Haunted, the one that James Swift host was, you guys were on, it just put me in one of those moods for days because it puts a visual to all this, what we're talking about today, and it's horrifying to think of any of our children ever going to a place like that.
Exactly. And his was just the worst case of conversion therapy that I've ever heard of. And I want to say most of the conversion therapies are horrifying, but his was just awful, and it was really taxing on me after filming. I was depressed for 3 days, but his story needs to be told. The truth needs to be told of what goes on behind closed doors, and he's saving kids' lives right now. Eight parents have contacted him that were contemplating sending their kids to conversion therapy, and they decided not to after watching Netflix.
And they decided to do family therapy.
Cult of torture.
It's a cult of torture, right?
Cult of torture, exactly. It's the third one down, season 2.
And the thing that's I think that puts us in a mood is that it's true. It's not a false film. It's not fiction. And that's what is most disturbing. And
he has a book called Rusted Rhinestones, and I had to put that down so many times because it is disturbing. And, you're going through it with him, and that's a good thing, because if you could just put yourself in his shoes as a parent, you would think twice about, putting your trust. I'm sorry, I need to decline that. Can you hear me right now? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Putting your trust in strangers.
Right.
And there is an organization called Survivors of Institutional Abuse, and Jody Hom is the founder of that, and she has alternatives. And one of them is called the wraparound method. Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay, and that's when they pretty much work with the whole family as a whole family dynamic, as opposed to singling out a child. And if anyone is contemplating sending their kid to either a reform school, wilderness camp, a boot camp for kids, a conversion therapy, I suggest getting a hold of Survivors of Institutional Abuse, because Jody Hobbs has answers, and so does James Swift.
Which is important. And I want to welcome callers to call in 866-826-1340, 866-826-1340, and join our discussion. We're going to take our first break, but we're going to be back with some more of facts and of child abuse and other things. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werhner. We welcome your input at 866-826-1340. Tiffany will be right back after this.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Are you looking to expand your knowledge in the mental health field and earn CEU credits at the same time? DID Discovering Hope is having their annual Creating Resilience Conference on November 15th and 16th, and it's open to all trauma survivors and therapists. 2 days of educational workshops will be led by internationally respected experts, including keynote speaker Dr. Colin A. Ross. For mental health professionals, 11 hours of CEUs are available. For more information or to register, visit diddiscoveringhope.org. Once again, that's diddiscoveringhope.org.
Hi, this is Tiffany Werhner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Werhner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
We are back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werhner. To join in the discussion, call 866-826-1340. Now, here's Tiffany Werhner.
Hi, welcome back. And if you're just listening now, this is Moments of Clarity. I'm Tiffany Werhner, licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And today, it could be a trigger warning for some of our listeners. We're going to be talking about child abuse, sexual abuse, and some of the schools that some parents are sending their kids to in hopes to help them, but it's actually abusive. And on the line with me is actually somebody that went to that school, and she's the host of a TV show called Pieces of Victory. She was on a Netflix show called The Haunted, and they're talking about these things, conversion therapy and reform school and boot camp, things like that we don't realize what goes on behind the walls. That can even be heavier and more abusive than juvenile justice prison for kids. And I want to welcome back to Moments of Clarity, Jeneen Miller.
Hi, Tiffany.
So Jeneen, there's some a lot of things. I want to welcome callers to call in to 866-826-1340 if you want to join our discussion or give some feedback. 866-826-1340. So you have a book coming out called Pieces of Victory. I want to talk a little bit about what that's about.
Yes, it is about my unfortunate experience in a lockdown residential program at Victory Christian Academy that was located in Ramona, California. It was also closed down in 1991 because the preacher did not have a license to run the program. It was also in the Los Angeles Times numerous times. He was also not fire code compliant. And then he moved the school and rebranded himself, but we can talk about that a little bit later. My story in my book, discusses the child abuse that took place in this residential program, and then I reflect back on a love story. So I connect the dots of how I ended up being locked into this residential program. So there's dark, there's light going on in my book.
Yeah, and I like when there's light and dark, like telling it how it is, because, we need to know the truth about these things. And unless people come out and talk about it, we don't know what goes on. And
right, go ahead.
And I'm thinking if it's from religion that is sponsoring these things, or some churches that people don't know either. And they're probably donating money for these things to continue.
Exactly. And I was, I considered myself a strong Christian. Before I entered the school, I was well respected by a private Christian school prior called Cornerstone Christian School in Camarillo. I had good grades in school. I went to church. I went to youth group. And, coming from a Christian standpoint, and when I write this book, I'm writing in present tense. So I'm a Christian in present tense as a 16-year-old girl. And I'm telling you my perspective as a Christian. And if you're a Christian reading my book, you will be disgusted and horrified of what goes on behind closed doors.
Because people don't expect that to happen. We have a caller. Go ahead. I was going to introduce a caller, but finish what you're saying.
Just a lot of people don't expect it to go on. You're putting your faith in, a Christian school, and you think that they're going to have, the best education and compassion, especially compassion, because to me that was what Christianity was all about, and there was nothing of the sort. It was nothing I have ever experienced from a congregation. It was just a shell shock to me.
We have a caller, Brian. Hi, Brian. Welcome to Moments of Clarity. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Tiffany.
Hi, Brian. Brian is Brian Cardoza, and he has a group, Survivor Nights, and he speaks out on child sexual abuse as well. Thank you so much for calling in, Brian.
Well, absolutely. You know, like almost any time you have a survivor come on, I always like to call and extend my gratitude for them coming out and speaking their truth. You know, one of the things we learn in this industry is that when you speak your truth, you give other people permission to speak theirs, and it's those communications and those conversations that happen that allow healing and allow true recovery to happen. And I just wanted to call and say thank you for giving another person another avenue to tell their story and to speak their truth, and also to help bring it to the forefront for other people. There's not enough people out there talking about our stories and what happened to us as children or even as adults.
So true. Jeneen, did you have any conflict or controversy when you started to speak up about child abuse?
I was reluctant to talk about the child abuse, especially since my background is from parents that didn't believe in me.
Right.
And I went through therapy. I left home at 17. I went through therapy, and that helped. And I had a family take me in for about 6 months until I became an independent woman and left after 6 months. But I felt like I had worked with that family. And as far as conflict of speaking my truth, there are survivors that have survived a Victory Christian Academy, and I'm sure that other survivors can relate to what I'm saying, that they are so brainwashed to think that this is the best thing that God ever did for them, and how dare I speak out and tell my truth. They are under the impression that without this program, they would be on the street, or they would be in jail, or they would be dead. And that's exactly what the preacher wanted to instill in us. So he did his job. You know, that was part of the programming. And
yeah. Can I? So, Jenny, again, thank you for just being you for most part. I just want to say, because I put it in my book, is that for survivors that are like that, is so for me, my abuse started so early that my story really just became just Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize that what was going on was so bad, and if I hadn't been thrown out at 15, I don't think I would ever have realized how bad it was, because I'd have been brainwashed into the entire concept that this was, just punishment, or sex abuse was just something that happened to every 6-year-old. So I understand where you're coming from, and again, thank you for being brave enough to speak it out.
And Brian wrote a fantastic book called The Unexpected Victim that you can buy on Amazon. And and Brian would actually be a good guest on your show. Just saying. Oh,
that would be awesome. Yes, Brian, I would love to have you on my show, Pieces of Victory.
Yeah, just if Tiffany can, I don't want to ask Tiffany to do something she's uncomfortable with, but if you could just pass along my information, Tiffany, I would love to have these conversations on more of a regular basis. That's what we need to do to eradicate it.
Yes, of course I will. And thanks for calling in.
Yeah, absolutely. Jenny, once more, just, thank you for being brave enough to do it. And I know it's probably just ad nauseum you've heard thank yous, but from the survivor community, every voice that comes forward just adds more power. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'll look out for your book. It's called The Unexpected Victim. The Unexpected
Yeah,
Victim.
and if you ever meet me, you realize why it's The Unexpected Victim. I'm sure Tiffany can tell you how how when you look at me, you don't think, well, there's a victim. So, but I will look forward to Tiffany's information, and thank you again, and keep kicking ass.
Well, on that note, what does a victim look like anyway? Like,
Well, we all have stereotypes. We all have stereotypes. You know what I mean?
thank you, Brian. Thanks for calling
Yeah,
in.
have a good one.
We have another
Brian.
caller. Kenny. Hi, Kenny. Welcome to Moments of Clarity.
Okay, what does a victim look like? It is a very good question. I mean, normal people through life are victims of this, unfortunately. But to tell you the truth, what does a homeless person, I would say 9 out of 10 was a victim of this. So that's kind of, if you want to go, oh, look at the homeless person, that's a result of this. But many people it is so widespread, just normal people, you would never expect it. You go, oh, they're so normal. They're so happening. They're so together. And this is a problem throughout society. Mm-hmm. But what I wanted to ask and I can't remember her name. What was your guest's name?
Jeneen.
Jeneen? Okay, you talked about the abuse that you had as a child, and then you were sent away to this boot camp. Were you sent away to the boot camp because you were like this really bad kid, or do you think it was possible that the fact that you were talking about being abused got you sent away?
That's a good question. I think it was a combination of both. It was because I was opening my mouth about being abused and causing family trouble, and also the way I was reacting. I was angry. I was definitely angry. And so they just assumed I was on drugs and drinking and, out of control. But I was really...
And maybe you were as a result of the abuse, and then that's used as an excuse to get rid of you to hide the abuse.
Exactly.
Okay. On a related note, I'm going to try and segue this. Well, Cyndi Lauper does benefit shows once a year. It's called Home for the Holidays. And what it is the LGBTQ community, the members of the family that were kicked out for being gay and or lesbian and or, whatever. This is to reunite them with the family, or at least give them something for the holidays because of what had happened to them. That's kind of on a related note, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that ties into James Swift, helpforteens.org, because that's exactly what he's trying to do along those lines, or when parents are kicking their kids out for being gay on the street, now they're sex trafficking themselves, they are desperate, they have nowhere to go. He wants to build a shelter. So it definitely ties in with that. It will tie in with that. So, yeah.
Wow. Thanks for the info, Kenny, and thanks for sharing and for calling in.
Thank you.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Kenny.
We have another caller. Hi, Joe. Welcome to Moments Clarity.
Hey, Tiffany. How are you?
Good. How are you?
A little under the weather, but I'm good. I want to thank the guest, Jeneen.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for calling in. Thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you.
I have a lot of questions. But I was going to ask you this question. How did you, I'm assuming you suffered PTSD as a result of everything you endured. How did you get through that? How did you deal with it?
How did I deal with it, and how am I coping with it now? Also, by writing the book, I went through a lot of PTSD as well. Never on any kind of medication for this. I went through therapy with a counselor since the age of 17 when I left home. That helped. I write. That helped. Nutrition, exercise helps me, and everybody is different. Mm-hmm. There's also nurture versus nature. I'm more nurture. So I feel like with nurture, I can, again, everybody's so different. I feel like I can fix myself. So I feel that when I do things that are productive, like writing books, helping survivors, that helps me. It doesn't mean I don't get angry. I definitely do have anger issues, especially when I wrote the book. That did rise to the surface. And go ahead.
I have one more quick question. I am a pastor. I work with college students in this area. And to be honest, when I read or see reports of these people in leadership, pastors, priests, or whatever, abusing children, I get extremely upset.
Sure.
And it gives all the good workers, a lot of people that are not Christians, they assume all Christian leaders are the same, that they're all pedophiles or they're all this or they're all that. And what is your attitude toward today? What is your attitude toward organizations like, I don't know, Samaritan's Purse or Walkway to Discovery that are doing a lot of stuff with children, supervised and unsupervised? Do you feel, at least, let me give you an example. For me, when I read about all these priests that victimize all these children, I'm so upset I can spit, right? And I have no use for what they are about or what they represent. But that doesn't mean all Christian leaders are bad. But some people can't get around that. Am I making sense?
Right. I think because of my background as a Christian, I know better and I believe in choice. We have free will. That's the whole thing. And I don't, I kept my spirituality. It's just hard for me to walk into a church because of PTSD. So it's really an association song. And Netflix portrayed that very well with James. They were playing, religious tapes over and over. So you were hearing a preacher as they're being tormented. Mm-hmm. And that's the perfect example for trigger. And it's really sad because, it could have been Disneyland, and I was abused at Disneyland. And every time I, maybe go on a ride at Disneyland or hear a song from Disney, now I'm associating, child abuse with that, but it happened to be a church. And that's what I associate with. I just like with people, everyone has a choice, and I can still have a relationship with someone who's Christian. That's not a problem for me. I don't feel like all Christian or religious organizations are like this. I just can't go into a church because of associations or hear songs. It's hard for me. And if I do go into one, it's just difficult for me.
I see. Well, thank you so much for answering the question, and thank you for being here. All the best.
Thank you, Joe, for calling in.
Thank you so much.
And it's true that you can't control where the trauma happens, and it's unfortunate. It's in a place that that you would want to practice or celebrate God or something, and now you can't because of your past.
Right. I also feel like, if I didn't go through this too, I would be so trusting about every single organization, mm-hmm. because I was so naive at that time, thinking anything that was stamped with, Christianity was okay. And it just opened my eyes that, of the reality that not everything is, what it may seem. So, I mean, it just opened my eyes to be more cautious. That's all.
And that's probably why they put Christianity on it, is to have people trusted in
hide behind it. Yeah, mm-hmm. Exactly.
And you were saying
before, for them.
Yeah, and isn't it immune from taxes and other things, being a church?
Exactly. So they get all the benefits. They're hiding behind the flag of Christianity. And it's perfect. And it's perfect to lure people in to trusting them.
And that's such a
And
shame.
it's really sad. It is a shame.
And very creepy.
There are other,
for lack of a better
there
term.
are other alternatives. So hopefully, people will think twice, once they see the haunted Netflix Cult of Torture with James, or, they read his book, Rusted Rhinestones, or read my book, Pieces of Victory. Maybe they'll think twice about, sending their child through a lockdown program for teens.
Yeah, sure. It's time for our second break, and I wish James Swift could call in. That would be great. But we're going to take our second break. We'll be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment. Stay tuned.
We will return to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werhner after these messages.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Are you looking to expand your knowledge in the mental health field and earn CEU credits at the same time? DID Discovering Hope is having their annual Creating Resilience Conference on November 15th and 16th, and it's open to all trauma survivors and therapists. 2 days of educational workshops will be led by internationally respected experts, including keynote speaker Dr. Colin A. Ross. For mental health professionals, 11 hours of CEUs are available. For more information or to register, visit diddiscoveringhope.org. Once again, that's diddiscoveringhope.org.
Hi, this is Tiffany Werhner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment, and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Werhner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one. Hi, this is Tiffany Werhner, your host of Moments of Clarity. I'd like to give a shout out to musician-songwriter Don Lawson, who wrote, produced, and performed all the vocals and instruments on my Moments of Clarity theme song. Don gained his inspiration as a mental health counselor himself. He's always looking for artists to record his songs, and you can hear more of Don's music at reverbnation.com/Don Lawson. You can also check him out on Twitter at Don Lawson Music. Thank you so much, Don, for your contribution to Moments of Clarity and ending the stigma on mental health. It's awesome.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Now back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werhner, licensed mental health counselor. To engage in the conversation, call 866-826-1340. Here's Tiffany.
Hi, welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, this is Moments of Clarity. My name's Tiffany Werhner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And happy Halloween, everyone. We're talking about something that could be a trigger for so many people. And because it's so common, we're talking about child abuse and child sexual abuse. And my guest today was on an episode called The Haunted, and season 2, episode 3, The Cult of Torture. She's an author of Pieces of Victory and a TV show host called Pieces of Victory. And I want to welcome back to Moments of Clarity, Jeneen Miller.
Hello.
Hey, Jeneen. Hi. Do you want to talk a little bit about the legislation you're trying to pass?
Yes, I would love to. George Miller introduced it, and Adam Schiff has reintroduced the legislation. It's Stop Child Abuse in Residential Programs for Teens Act. It's a federal bill, and it will provide oversight, because evidently there is no oversight in these programs. Unfortunately, it is not passed yet, so we really need to be active and pass this bill. I'm all for religious liberty, but we didn't say to abuse our children.
Right.
So, that's why we need this. And if you have nothing to hide, then you should be okay with having the government oversee, your facility.
Agreed. If there's nothing to hide. Ed, did you want to say something?
Yeah,
Did you
I'm just,
go ahead?
from the start, you said you really didn't do anything to be put into that. What's your relationship with your parents now?
I'm not speaking to my family. I did forgive them for this, but they continued to be dysfunctional, and I just had to separate myself. So I don't have any ill will towards them, or, there's no hatred or anything like that. I wish them well. I also feel that all of this was meant to be, if that makes any sense. I feel that they played a role in my mission. I feel that this was my mission in this realm, that I needed to go through this in order to have the compassion that I have to get these places closed down. I feel that the negative things that happen to us could be a tool to build character, to have passion and compassion for someone, and that is the passion that gets me to get these places closed down.
Mm-hmm.
By spreading awareness.
I couldn't agree with that more. I wouldn't be a therapist if I didn't lose my parents at an early age and go through trauma. And sometimes we have to go through really bad things in order to find our calling.
I mean, if this is still going on in these facilities with the technology that we have today, I mean, look, child abuse is child abuse. You can't be a little bit pregnant. Either you're abusing a child or you're not.
Right.
With the technology we have nanny cams. Nobody's tried to infiltrate these people. I mean, and when I say these people, I mean, just because you put a cross on the top of your building doesn't mean you have the right to put your hands on kids.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is. But I just wonder why these places are not being exposed. Are there many people that have come forward for this?
It's $1 billion industry. It's $1 billion industry, and you can kind of connect the dots with that if you want. That's one thing. And the other thing is, someone had brought to my attention, again, you had mentioned today's technology. He said with iPhones and, the internet. And
sure.
How do you get away with this? Well, when you're in a lockdown residential program, one of the things they do, or the first things that they do to the children,
take it away,
is they strip you down. They take everything away. They take your iPhones. There's no internet. You have no communication whatsoever to the outside world. It is not what you think. There is no iPhone.
I mean, are there bars on the windows, or what's the deal?
Well, in my case, there weren't very many windows, and that's why they were shut down, because they weren't fire code compliant. And he was open since 1985, and the school finally closed in 1991. We'll talk about rebranding in just a minute, but that was in Ramona, California. And he got away in California, in a liberal state, from 1985 to 1991.
Now,
without a license.
When these kids are reached 18, are they deemed reformed and released, or must they stay?
I didn't see anyone stay past 18. That is a good question, because this brings me to the kids that were locked into, it was Kidnapped for Christ. I cannot remember the name of the school, Escribe Caribe or something like that. I can look it up real quick. But anyway, if you watch Kidnapped for Christ, David, who is also another survivor, was locked in the Dominican, he was sent away, kidnapped in the middle of the night and sent away to the Dominican Republic. And he was going to be locked in there until the age of 21. You can't do that. But apparently, they were trying to keep him there until the age of 21.
If you watch The Haunted, Ed, the Cult of Torture episode, season 2, episode 3, it puts a visual of what they're doing to these kids.
Okay, but as looking at it as a parent, and you're dropping your kid off, parents never come back for Thanksgiving or Christmas or birthdays to check on the child, or just see you when you're 18?
No, there were visits. Well, I'll just talk about my school. Every school is different. Every lockdown is different. In my particular lockdown, the parents couldn't see the child for 3 months, and then it was once a month after that. So 3 months, and by that time, we're programmed. After 3 months, we're already conditioned. You can't open your mouth. You can't say anything. If you do, you're locked up in isolation for days, weeks, and months at a time. There are consequences for opening your mouth and saying, hey, I'm being abused. In my case, my parents wouldn't believe me because they didn't even believe me about being sexually abused, so I wasn't going to even risk that.
Yeah, it's
but
such
there
a
are
shame.
consequences for the children for opening their mouth, even the social services.
Do you think it's
Social
more?
services can come. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do you think it's more of a cult than anything else?
It is absolutely a cult. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yes. You nailed it. That's what it is. In my particular school, Victory Christian Academy, definitely a cult. New Bethany, also the Hephzibah House that is still open today. 5 decades. Anderson Cooper did a thorough investigation about this on CNN, and it's still open today.
My goodness.
And the parents that are locking their kids up in this place, the girls, they're also brainwashed. It's a cult. So, really it's the parents that continue to feed this business, and I want to call it a business because it's $1 billion industry.
Yeah, because, I mean, there are parents that send their kids away to summer camp and have to visit them every 2 days. So this is a convenient way to have somebody else parent your child. Exactly.
That's a red flag right there, too. If you can't see your child for a long period of time, or if you can't even go anytime you want, that's a red flag. There's too much time to clean up their, girls locked in the isolation for days, weeks, and months at a time, force feeding them, and all the things that went on behind closed doors. Forced labor with no pay. At the Hephzibah House, they are forced to drink an absurd amount of water, and they are designated when they can go to the bathroom. Can you imagine that? Mm-hmm. And if they soil themselves, because that's what ends up happening when you hold in your urine, now they put diapers on the girls and humiliate them. It's disgusting what is going on.
Yeah. It's not easy to hear, and it's even worse that it's still going on. And it's not all like that in juvenile hall. I wouldn't work for a place that was like doing anything unethical.
If you could put a number, how many kids would you say are involved in this?
In my particular school, there were 50 girls. I don't know how many girls are locked up right now at the Hephzibah House. It's horrifying to know because I have been through it, and it's a sister program to the one I was locked in. And it just makes me so sad that it's still going on right now.
Yeah, and one child's too many.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel awful because I know, and I feel that I'm not doing enough to try to help get this closed down.
Well, you're definitely doing your part. And now that more of us are aware of everything, hopefully the legislation gets passed. And now that we're more aware of what's going on, we can do more. And I appreciate you talking out and sharing your story. And your book is coming out in November?
I'm having pre-orders in November, and my book will come out in December. Yes, and you can visit my website, which is piecesofvictory.com.
Awesome. Piecesofvictory.com. And I also encourage all listeners to listen or to view The Haunted and Cult of Torture is the episode. It's season 2. And James Swift is a good friend of ours, and you see what he went through, and it's just horrifying. And I definitely say it's a trigger for a lot of people, so be careful for that. But everyone, happy Halloween. Jeneen, it's been such an honor having you on Moments of Clarity. Thank you so much.
Oh, it was such an honor to be on Moments of Clarity. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
And thanks to all the callers that called in and all the support and the team. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you, Ed. We'll be back tomorrow, 12 to 1. We'll be talking about recovery and substance abuse and a survivor on that. And I'm looking forward to that too. See you tomorrow and happy Halloween.
Find your joy, trust in you. Put in the time, you'll see how you grow. Many kinds of love you get to define. Find self-love, you're so alive. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity. To yourself, be kind, it will please your mind. Hope is following you. Don't abandon yourself.